Chapter 26, Working Women and Children. Women in early America didn't work. Do you believe that? Some people do. They think that working women are a new phenomenon. Well, people who believe that don't know their history. Women have always worked in America. They just didn't always work for wages. How about American men? Have they always worked? Of course. But they didn't work for wages either. In old days, most men and women worked on farms for themselves and didn't see much cash. If they had extra crops, they sold or they bartered them for goods that they couldn't produce themselves. Some American men and women were indentured servants or slaves, and of course they didn't work for themselves. They usually didn't get wages either. A few people, however, were paid cash or wages for their work. Craftspeople, blacksmiths, shoemakers, furniture makers, printers, etc. Teachers and ministers. In Europe, those cash-paying jobs had almost always belonged to men. America was different. From the beginning, there was a labor shortage. If a blacksmith wanted to teach his daughter his craft, he could do it in America. Some American women were blacksmiths and shoemakers and coopers. Some were teachers. The traditional churches would not ordain women as ministers, but on the frontier, where preachers were in short supply, women were often called to preach. When factories began to open in America, women filled the factories. There was an unfortunate reason for that. Women were willing to work for lower wages than men. There was another group that worked for lower wages still. Children. 19th century factories were filled with children, boys and girls who almost never got a chance to play. Do you sometimes complain about school? Well, you might stop complaining after you read what factory life was like for some 19th century children. This description was written by Herman Melville in 1855. Melville needed some paper. He was a writer, so he got on his horse and went off to a paper factory. He made the trip down a mountain ravine into a hollow called Devil's Dungeon. It was cold winter day, and his cheeks were bitten with frost when he arrived. This is what Melville found. Not far from the bottom of the dungeon stands a large whitewashed building, like some great white sepulchre, against the sullen background of mountainside firs. The building is a paper mill. Immediately I found myself standing in a spacious place, intolerably lighted by long rows of windows, focusing inwards on the snowy scene without. At rows of blank-looking counters sat rows of blank-looking girls with blank white folders in their blank hands, all blankly folding blank paper. I looked upon the first girl's brow and saw it was young and fair. I looked upon the second girl's brow and saw it was ruled and wrinkled. Then, as I still looked, the two, for some small variety to the monotony, changed places, and where had stood the young fair brow now stood the ruled and wrinkled one. Not a syllable was breathed. Nothing was heard but the low, steady, overruling hum of the iron animals. The human voice was banished from the spot. Machinery, that vaunted slave of humanity, here stood menially served by human beings, as the slave serves the sultan. The girls did not seem so much an accessory wheels to the general machinery as mere cogs to the wheels. Those girls didn't have a choice. They had to work. Slave children didn't have a choice either. I was only 7 years old when I was sent away to take care of a baby, says Harriet Tubman, for when she grew up, she became famous for helping slaves to run away to freedom. One morning after breakfast, I stood by the table waiting to clear the table. Just by me was a bowl of lumps of white sugar. I never had anything so good. No sweet, no sugar, and that sugar right by me did look so nice. And my missus' back was turned to me, so I just put my fingers in the sugar bowl to take one lump. And maybe she heard me, for she turned and saw me. The next minute she had the rawhide down to whip Harriet, and I ran and I ran.